Future Freight Festival in Chattanooga, Tennessee is the event of the fall. Subscribers to Check Call have a special discount code for F3 registration. This is going to be one of the best deals on F3 tickets. Use the code CheckCallF324 at checkout to take advantage of this offer. See you in Chattanooga. Welcome back to another edition of Check Call. Don't forget to subscribe to Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we welcome Blair Blake, the VP of Carrier Strategy at Arrive Logistics. Welcome to the show, Blair.
Hey, Mary. Thanks for having me and great to be here.
I am happy that you could join us today. It's always nice to get some fresh blood from Arrive over here. As you know, David Spencer, friend of the show. We love him. But I'm excited that it's your turn in the hot seat today. But before we get too far into that, let's get some background on you and how you got started at Arrive.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been at Arrive coming up on 5 years. My role is to manage Arrive supply and provide coverage and service for our 4,000 plus shippers. So I'm always trying to understand what our carrier partners need to be efficient and then really model out what investment that might look like within, kind of the people, process, or technology aspects. Prior to Arrive, I've been in the brokerage industry for about 16 years. I started out at Command Transportation under Paul Loeb. I was also fortunate enough to start my own freight brokerage that ultimately went through an M&A with Uber to launch what is known today as Uber Freight. And that's really my journey that got me in my seat that I'm focused on trying to balance the approach between operational task and really technology support.
I think at this point in time, it seems like who hasn't touched Uber Freight at some point in time with all the different acquisitions they've had. So I'm glad that you're a part of that ecosystem as well. It's a good crew to be in.
It really is. And in a ton of learning, coming from, really their core model and their infrastructure and, how data was used, how technology was used and really, helped be a driver to bring the industry forward.
So speaking of that technology, I am sure that you know better than anyone that that's kind of a slower adoption thing for carriers. And as you very well know in your current position, you kind of have to work around those carriers that still believe their Nextel flip phone walkie-talkie situation are the top tier options. But do you see kind of this as some of the drivers start to retire, as some younger drivers get in? Do you see carriers drivers more specifically kind of like catching up and carrier technology really catching up to where we all kind of want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we have some room to grow. When you think about it, the obvious net benefit is the efficiency carriers and drivers have from leveraging that technology. Think about, one of the inflection points that maybe helped pull forward technology within, kind of our supply chain. I look at a key event. Think about the ELD mandate. That caused quite a stir, if you remember that, Mary. And that naturally forced, product participation. So you've got the smaller carriers. They used to have, I'm probably dating myself a little bit here, but that physical Rolodex of brokers to call. But now we're really finding that this cohort having access to freight through applications and portals, that's allowed them to participate freely on their own time. And, particularly having access to freight that, otherwise they may not have been able to see or even participate in. So it's kind of, when you think about carrier selection and offering strategy, to me, that really helps some of the smaller cohort size carriers be able to operate sustainably. So I think they're adopting to a lot of this technology. When you have the larger carriers in, the private fleets, being able to manage their bottom line through, efficiency technology solutions is really key for them. Instead of, you think about potentially hiring on that incremental planner, back office personnel, they can now start to use those tools, AI, any automated solution that is critical for them to operate efficiently.
I am excited for carriers to really lean into some of the technology advancements. Obviously, we're always going to have those early adopter carriers. We're always going to have the ones that are willing to jump on board with this bandwagon very early, which, we love them, but we're also going to have those that drag their feet. I personally am just excited that it's a little bit more accessible and not quite as like, you don't have to drop $10,000. You literally can just switch your Nextel to an iPhone, and suddenly you have all of these options. And so it's pretty, as far as cost of entry goes, it's pretty low. Because you just kind of wrap it up into your phone plan. I'm excited for that because it's something that I think even if you're a small carrier owner operator, you can use to your advantage. Because when I was a broker, I would literally ask my carriers, like one specific carrier, he had a daughter that played college softball. And I said, okay, well, give me her softball schedule of where she's going to be when, and I'll try to get you loads to as close as you can to there so you can go see her games, because he was going to go see him regardless. So I was like, okay, well, like, can I sweet talk you into working for me? And so I think even having something as simple as that, of knowing like, because I don't think it would be that difficult to say, I want to be at this, around this city on this date, find me a load for it. And I think that that is kind of more of a creative use for some of those smaller owner operators versus sitting there of going, okay, well, I want to be 100 miles away, tomorrow. But I don't want to drive away. I'd like to get paid for it, or versus, I have to travel and not get paid for it. So, yeah, I hope that some of the smaller carriers take advantage of some of those solutions.
Yeah, and the thing that I would add on to that is you're talking about a driver being at his daughter's game. For us, it's hey, how do you want to operate and how do you want to do that at your own time, right? So if you're at your daughter's game and then you need to schedule your next load, you can do that. You can do that at 8 p.m. at night. You can do that at 2 p.m. In addition to that, we also allow you to call in and be able to talk to someone through human interaction as well. But I think that optionality is key, and exactly what you mentioned is a real tangible example of utilizing that technology to be more efficient across the board.
Yeah, and I think that, I know there's always some hesitancy of, especially if I'm a smaller carrier, times right now are very tight. So I don't want to have to spend too much to try and upgrade myself or become more competitive. But also, if I don't, then I'm not competitive. And like you said, you're missing out on those potential opportunities. And I think the more people are willing to lean into that, the better off it's going to be, because, it's just more people being able to take advantage of what's in front of them.
Absolutely.
When it comes to kind of building these relationships and having these strong carrier partners, obviously, Arrive's very good at maintaining some carrier partnerships. And you guys do have a very strong technology component to it as well, but also so much of transportation is relationship based. So how do you guys kind of balance that? Okay, well, we have some drivers that just like to call in and chit chat for a while because maybe they're bored or they just feel like chit chatting today, with, well, we want to try and automate as much as we can through some technology.
So my experience, I think, has really afforded me the opportunity to see both sides of the coin here. If you remember that kind of full technology push with new players entering the market 6-7 years ago, and then backdated across 2007, 2008, when technology wasn't very prevalent, listening to drivers and carriers, they still fundamentally want, and to your point, need that interaction. The freight industry, incredibly stressful. It's time permitting. So the feedback that we often hear is technology really does help with the efficiency, but when you have a problem that can't be fixed by, let's say a click of a button, carriers just want to be able to talk through solutions and have that human interaction. So for us at Arrive, we offer a co-pilot model that allows that kind of optionality that our drivers and carriers are looking for. So instead of trying to force one technology solution upon a carrier or a driver, we learn their operational strategy. We're trying to explore their needs together. And then it's really about overlaying the appropriate technology solutions to be able to support that fleet And that's again based upon size, their needs, in their overall operating strategy.
Have you found that any of the carriers tend to flock towards one specific solution? Is there one that you guys have just kind of found to go, oh, well, apparently everybody really likes this solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, so we have this Now Carrier suite, this Arrive Now suite of options. And I think when we go back to, our web portal service, that's really this one-stop freight management portal. And you can instantly bid or book using a device, using your desktop. It has access to 24/7 customer support as well. The reason why I'd say that this is an impactful investment that we've seen, successful, is quantifying it through the user growth and stickiness. So we've had over 50,000 active carrier users. That represents over 1 million power units participating in that web portal today. So again, you think about the fleet size, you think about operating needs, but at the end of the day, if there's spot or incremental, volumes that they're looking for, this is a really easy tool for them to explore. And then if they have questions, again, they can make a call, they can talk to someone, and they can work through those bookings together.
I like that you guys do have that solution of, if someone that is either struggling to adopt the technology or, they're just not interested in that at this point in time. Because I've met a lot of drivers that, I'm like, hey, we could just change two things and it would be a lot easier. And they're just like, no, thanks. I have things how they are, and that's how I want to keep them. And I'm like, okay, I will not bring this up again. And so I like that there is kind of that varying level of like anyone who wants to be seamlessly integrated from the click of a button all the way to like, don't worry, Joe, we'll be here when you call.
Yeah, and it's just it goes bits and pieces, right? To your exact point, if you want to operate on your own and you don't want to talk to anyone, totally available for you to do so. But like anyone, we're set in our ways. In providing the ability to work in phases to a self-service option is something that we want to be there to be able to support and help participate in.
Yeah, and I like that there is that opportunity. It's because it's truly kind of your own, choose your own adventure, make it what you want. When it comes to, have you guys noticed any struggles when it comes to maybe implementing some of these new technologies? I know it's something that obviously almost everyone that onboards with you guys has to go through and has access to this portal. Have you seen certain carriers or kind of a commonality of people that are just kind of dig their heels in and are a little bit hesitant to it? Or by the time, they're getting onboarded with you guys that they're pretty much already on, like they're pretty much okay with this?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, we empathize with our carrier partners and, understand how challenging their day to day is. So let's be honest. Adopting new technologies sometimes involves some stress. There's some short term change management and time commitment, but our position at Arrive is to avoid the extremes. So what does that mean? From our position, the tools that we're providing aren't necessarily meant to replace any core, kind of workflow that you're operating through today. So remove that foundational interaction is not something that we're necessarily looking for, but we've got dedicated teams who support any technology onboarding in parallel to the sales representatives on the accounts. So these are resources who will spend any and all necessary time getting a user comfortable with the technology and value add. So ultimately, we're committed to working alongside the technology and not always as a replacement, and that's proven successful for us.
Have you guys, is that something that you look for in when you're going to partner with a new carrier, onboard someone? Is that something that you look for, is someone that's kind of already technologically advanced or at least invested, and they don't just have like the good old Nokia brick?
Potentially, but honestly, we're not really even trying to identify that at first. For us, we do offer a self-service onboarding experience. However, because we have a sales floor who's talking to our carrier partners and to our drivers on a day in day basis, they're able to really understand what they're working with from a technology stack right off the bat. So for us, it's saying, hey, even if you have no technology, we can be able to supply that to you. And what you mentioned earlier, at times with a click of a button, that can be available to you. Now, if there's further integrations that are more, technical, we can work through that, and then we might meet with additional teams from that carrier to be able to really advance that technology and make sure that those integrations are working appropriately, so that it doesn't make it for a poor experience when investing in those technologies in full.
I mean, that makes sense. You kind of have to do a little bit of homework before you just jump right in. When it comes to, kind of, because obviously technology is a big part of carrier relationships, but the other part is that relationship part, that trust, the loyalty that you've got my back, that the first thing out of your mouth when something goes wrong isn't, oh, it's the carrier's fault, which too many brokerages are all too ready to say. What do you guys kind of do to make sure that your carriers know that you have their back, and there is a true partnership there, and you're not going to be the first one to turn on them? What's kind of the steps to build that trust with everybody?
It's a great question. I'll go right back to our co-pilot model that leverages that technology suite that I was talking about earlier of Arrive Now. So we always talk about how we can reduce manual tasks, allowing our team members to focus on those strategic initiatives, those problem solving, and the core of really relationship building. Um, the result that we see is enhanced service excellence, and for Arrive, we want to make sure that we aren't suddenly deploying products. And sometimes you see out there that there's just a hope that might get adopted. So we're just heavily focused on building products alongside our partners and teams. We host consistent roundtable discussions. We deploy quarterly care surveys. And we have candid conversations with our day-to-day contacts to understand the pain points, and ultimately like just really work towards those solutions so that there's no surprises along the way.
So you mean to tell me that you have a piece of technology that you've developed and you listen to the users on how to make it better?
I think I am saying that, and that has been successful for us. Of course, you're not going to necessarily hit a home run with each product deployment, but we can have peace of mind and we can have confidence in the products that we release. Just going right back to the audience, and that's our carrier partners.
All right, so Blair, I have two questions for you. I think we have time for both of them. The first one, well, the second one's a little more whimsical. The first one, what is your biggest tip to anyone out there, looking to recruit some carriers or vet some carriers? What's your biggest tip that you find in, successfully retaining and getting new carriers on board?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my first answer, I go back to balance. We've seen examples across, really the last decade where significant investments in technology were made to really like modernize and connect, carriers and brokers together. But it can fall short. So it really comes down to that balance between innovation and operations and relationship building. That connectivity between the two is key. And I think companies at times get excited with innovation and may, as a result, fail to follow what the data is informing them. So when you go back to really carrier acquisition and how you can make sure that your carrier partners are sticky with you, talk to them, understand what they need and what they're looking for, and then go and explore, what you have to offer with them, and then walk them through that. Oftentimes, I've seen in my experience that you release a piece of technology or product or some sort of integration, and the expectation is that user can then can leverage that and be able to participate with you 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road. That's not, in my opinion, that's not the case. So let's make sure that they understand what the value add is of a particular product, what the value is of working together, and what the ultimate goal is. So once you understand the goal, the objective at hand, being able to place in technology, but then also have that relationship at hand, making sure that you're engaging those touch points is critical to be successful long term.
I like that. It's more than just that initial contact of, hey, you're great, we're great, we'd like to work together. It's that continued relationship building, that continued check in of like, hey, are things still going well for you? Are they not? And I think that sometimes everybody gets so wrapped up in getting a carrier on board and trying to give them what they want load wise and give them everything they need, that they forget to check in to some of those longer carriers that maybe haven't done a full 2-3 years with everybody, but have done maybe like 6 months. They kind of forget to check in and be like, are things still going well for you? Like, is there anything that you want to see from us? Is there anything we can do to make your life easier? And I think that that's often kind of forgot about, or at least overlooked a little bit.
Yeah, I'll add that most of the time it's the simple things to anchor back to. Your audience is right in front of you, and sometimes we all can forget that. So it's really a constant reminder to go back to your audience, confirm your findings, ensure that it's something that would that they would leverage from a product offering, and then ask questions, check in. For example, at Arrive, we build technology around the dispatcher and planner level because that really supports our carrier strategy of mid-market fleets that need those sound efficiency solutions. We make sure to ask questions towards the dispatcher and planner level to make sure that we're building those products accordingly, and to make sure that they're happy with those once we deploy out to those carrier partners.
And I absolutely love that. That's a fantastic step. It's truly, it goes to show that it truly is not that hard just to check in and make sure that people are like a baseline happy. You're not asking them like, oh, are you jumping for joy having fireworks come out of everywhere? Like, no, just like, are you good with this? Like, obviously there's always room for improvement, but are you good? And I really like that you guys take that approach. A different approach though is moving away from anything carrier related, and moving into obviously the hot button issue of the day, Blair, and that is a hot dog considered a sandwich?
Mary, this question, it's been debated on the Arrive floor for probably years at this point, and I'm not certain that I've been maybe persuasive enough. But I firmly believe a hot dog is not a sandwich. I definitely want to get your position on this, but uh, doesn't it come down to like it's the bun versus bread debate? A hot dog. Let's try to break this down. A hot dog, it's served in a single bun. That it's split, but it's still connected. And then when you think about a sandwich, that's two separate slices of bread, right? So a couple I think that's the first argument. And then a couple weeks ago, I heard someone else on the floor, and I really like this one. They made a case for toppings versus fillings. So a hot dog would have toppings like mustard. If you're from Chicago, got to have mustard on that. That's placed directly on the top of the hot dog. A sandwich has fillings. You've got your different meats, your vegetables, and a bunch of condiments on it. So I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna solve this debate, Mary, but like I I'm going to say a hot dog's not a sandwich.
We've had a lot of compelling arguments over the years. We really have. I mean, we've asked this question probably over 100 times, and everybody's got a different answer. I am firmly in the camp of hot dogs not a sandwich, because when you go to a deli, and arguably almost everyone will agree that delis produce some of the best sandwiches known to man. When you walk into that deli, a hot dog is not on the menu. Therefore, it's not a sandwich. Because if it was a sandwich, the deli would have it. Not even on like the kids' menu is it there. And yeah, I just don't think it's its own thing. It's its own thing. It's not a taco. The first person who said that definitely broke my brain. It's not a taco. It's its own thing. I don't think it is, because also one of the best arguments I've ever heard is, um, if you were to say, "Hey, can you make me a sandwich?" and they brought you a taco, you would probably be a little disappointed.
I think we've solved it. It's not a sandwich.
So, anyway, Blair, if someone has a hot take on your sandwich opinions, or if they are struggling with kind of developing a strong carrier relationship strategy, where can they find you outside the show?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to me via email, bblake at arrivelogistics.com. And happy to connect and work with you on your operational strategy.
You guys heard it here first. Blair is ready to have a conversation, ready to chat. Thank you so much for joining us today, Blair.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You can catch other episodes of Check Call anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to check out all the other incredible FreightWave shows, and don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/checkcall. See you on the internet.